Alrighty. Yes. We are coming into the next part. Creality reveals the K3 series printer. We're going to check out some of the details on this baby, so let's go ahead and get cracking. Yes. Get all comfortable. I've got my morning latte, rocking a Hawaiian blend that I just picked up about a week ago. So, yeah, it's a blueberry strudel flavor. So, yeah, we're rocking that. Great latte. But that's not what you're here for. Today we're going to be talking about more details on the K3, the KliTek multi-nozzle system, which has been very interesting. There's a few different events that have happened that I think are going to push Creality to a point of whether it's going to be smash or trash. And one of those things is that they've been around for 12 years. Not that, being around for a long time makes you worth anything. It just means you've kind of dodged some bullets here and there. But they've also done their IPO, their initial public offering. So they're listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, which is a huge deal because I guess they've tried to do it a couple times before and they weren't able to make the grade, but this time they have, and boom, what is the result of that? The flagship that's going to be coming out is the K3. So the KliTek system. I still don't know why they call it KliTek. I don't know, is it kind of a spin-off of the Vortec of that Bamboo put out with its little nozzles going up and down and stuff like that? I don't know. Just kind of an interesting name, and I wish they would let us know on why they, name things such as they do. There's some naming conventions that make sense. So in other words, some companies that they'll name like, I guess some of the constellations in the sky, the Orion and this and that, they'll their products are named after constellations or animals or the cheetah, the tiger, different types of felines. The KliTek, I'm not sure what the deal is with that. So, excuse me, we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump right in. We're going to talk about the details on this the K3 series of printers, which is going to be the new series for Creality. So I think this is going to be the line in the sand that Creality is jumping over, and with their IPO that they've done on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange is really going to be the pivot point, and to the point of where either it's going to be really good or it's, I don't know. I'm hoping it'll be good. So with that said, I'm Steve, the Varied Life. That's the name of my channel. So if you like and subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate that. I'm an American expat living here in Korea, retired. So I do hobby stuff, kind of fun stuff. And getting into 3D printing was really fun. Got into painting miniatures, Games Workshop. So expensive, got into resin printing, then did a little bit of laser engraving, then got into FDM printing or FFF printing. And the printer I have is a Creality K2 Plus. So the K3 and this multi-nozzle system paired with their IPO on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange is, I think it's going to be big, and it sounds good, but only time will tell. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over some of the information and kind of a summarized overview of what the live stream was from Creality, which was like, how long was that live stream? It was 2 hours and 15 minutes, but we're going to try to take this down a notch, and we're just going to jump into the information. So for those of you who don't know, the KliTek system is a next-gen nozzle changer. They're going to have a single tool head, and then you're going to have 4 nozzle units on the back. And kind of reminiscent of, kind of like the index system from Bondtech, except it is not induction heating. And here we've got a picture up here, and you can kind of see that. Some people said, oh, it's going to be induction, it's going to be this and that, and it's like, no. And when they release this picture, as you can see that square with the orange in there, that's the heat block or the heat sink. And then it's got a unicorn nozzle. We see some extruder gears. Excuse me. So yeah, I kind of knew it wasn't going to be an induction style system. But with that, the K3 series, and that is going to be a series of printer, but this K3 is going to have 4 nozzles. And in the video, they actually showed some of this stuff. And if we take a look, we'll just kind of go in here and take a look at, we'll just hit some key areas on the live stream and kind of show you. So there is the nozzle unit. So in other words, you have your nozzle, you have your heat sink, and of course that's going to be heated up. You have a silicone sock, and then up here is where your filament path is going to be, and then you have some kind of a semicircle area that's kind of recessed in, and then you can actually see where the filament will be right there. So the great thing about this is this will greatly aid in troubleshooting when it comes to jams, because when this tool head is off, you can see if there's any jams in this, and that's nice. So they're kind of removing that, and then you could be left with this here. So that begs the question, how easy is it to get into this? And how is troubleshooting, say like a clog, how is that going to come into play? We see a couple of recessed holes here. We got some pins here, so those are going to marry up, you know, to kind of do that. Get your mind out of the gutter. And then we can kind of see the extruder gears here. And let's just kind of go through. We'll just kind of fast forward here a little bit. And so there's the system. It's got the 2 holes. It's got kind of a locking system on there, which is kind of interesting. That kind of marries up in that hole. Boom, it pops in there. Of course, he's got a little bit of fumble fingers there. But that locks in there. And if we stop and take a look, this tab that moves is when that nozzle unit snaps in there. That's actually a tab that opens up the extruder gears. So you have a gear on this side, the gear on this side, and they're all matched up. And then when the nozzle unit goes in there, it kind of spreads apart. The nozzle goes in there, and then you have your filament down in the center, and then it closes back up. So pretty unique little system. So it'll be interesting to see how this works and everything. The whole system, it's going to have its individual cable, a USB-C cable, and then of course their own PTFE tube on that, and some of the other stuff on here. If we can get some other close-up views on this, they end up taking off the silicone sock. Again, this is a prototype of this, and we can see that on the front side, it doesn't look too bad. And that's going to be the cutter that, because people were wondering about the cutter, and it's an automatic cutter, so it's got a little thing in there, and that's what he's looking at in between where his fingernail's at right there. That is where the cutter blade is going to be. So again, I like the fact that everything is open on this, and troubleshooting, of course, with the nozzle unit is going to be pretty easy. But with that said, I'd like to, you know, what do you do if there's a clog in the tool head portion? So what is going to be, how is that going to come into play? And is it easy to take off the rails and stuff like that? So yeah, that's going to be my question right there. And is that going to hamper troubleshooting? Obviously, Creality doesn't think it'll be a problem. So let's see, what else? Do we got any other good pictures in here? They talk about some other stuff, and we'll talk about that. But let's get back here to the studio, and we're going to talk about all this stuff. So we already talked about that. The cool thing about this is it's going to have a unicorn nozzle that's high flow, supposedly, which is kind of a thing that'll be nice. And as the printer is printing with an existing nozzle, one of the 4 nozzle units, as it's printing, and then through the slicer in the program, it'll realize and say, hey, we're going to have a color change coming up. The nozzle that's in the back of the unit that is going to be coming up next is going to be preheated. And so by the time that the tool head comes back, locks and gets rid of that nozzle and then comes over and gets this nozzle, it'll be properly heated up and you just jump right into printing. So again, it's about saving time. So that is really, really cool. Talking about time and saving material, that is going to be a huge thing on the Creality K3. We do know that it's the K3, and the time and material savings. The K2 Plus takes about 1.5 to 2.5 minutes per color change, and the K3 KliTek 15 seconds. That is crazy. If you think about that, when you're doing a print and you have color changes with, say, like my K2 Plus with the CFS system, you have your tube going down to your computer, the PTFE tube going to your computer for each filament's got to go through that tube, and then if you want to change, it has to retract all of that filament back to the spool, and then it's got to load up the next filament. It's got to go through the PTF tube into the printer, and that's going to take a lot of time. So on average, you're looking at about 2 minutes for a color change on the K2 Plus. Then to print, let's say you've got 100 color changes, that would take 200 minutes. Just 100 color changes, and so that would be 3 hours and 20 minutes. However, with the KliTek, with the 15-second color change, we're talking material change, you're looking at the same 100 color changes, that would end up being only 25 minutes. So for those of you who are good at math, and I had to get ChatGPT to help me out on this, that's 87.5% faster just on the color changes alone. Now, this doesn't take into account, the regular printing and so on and so forth. We're just talking about the color changes. So imagine if you had a print that had a ton of color changes and you're looking at it and you're saying, hey, this is a really cool print, but it's got like 500 or 1,000 color changes. The problem is you might be thinking, this is going to take days. I don't want to print this. Well, with the KliTek system and reducing that by 87.5% on the color changes, now we're getting to a place where we're getting some high-speed efficiency, and that could be the determination of whether I print something or I don't because of the number of color changes. Hey, we got Swedish Forge in the house. Hey, what's up, brother? Yeah, we're talking about more of the details of the KliTek from Creality that's going to be coming out. The K3 series, that's going to be interesting. But yeah, this whole nozzle tool head thing that they've got going on and changing, you don't have the retraction problems that you have with a CFS or a multi-material system. So in other words, you have a unit with a bunch of spools, and then the filament has to travel to the printer, and then when it retracts, it has to retract all the way back. Then the other one needs to go. That's why it takes 2 minutes on average. And with the K2 Plus, depending on where you have your CFS system, I have mine sitting on top, you're looking at an average of about 2 minutes. But if you're one of those people that has your CFS or multi-material system a little bit farther away, you can get up into 2.5 minutes. So think of the added time for a 500 color or material tool change over the duration of your print. That is going to be some serious time. So not only are we going to save on material, again, we've seen in the previous video we talked about and saw how it'll, the reduction in waste is basically zero except for a purge tower. Compared to normal single nozzle printing with multi-material systems. That is huge. But the time saved, that's where you're going to get your money shot. This is going to be huge. Taking it from basically 2 minutes down to 15 seconds, that is going to be huge. And you're not going to have the bleed over that you have with a single nozzle system because, red goes in, it goes out, and let's say you're going to print white next, you're going to have a lot of purging, you might get some ghosting and seeing that blur or, that contamination in your print from red to white or vice versa. So you got to adjust purge volumes and so on and so forth. So thankfully, that's done by the computer and, the software and so on and so forth. But you don't have to worry about that anymore, because each nozzle has its own filament and or material. So pretty amazing stuff. Let's go back to the S-drive system. And the S-drive system is basically what that's going to end up doing that we see there. Let me see if we can get this going. This is in regards to TPU. TPU is a really flexible filament, kind of like a foamy stuff. You could do gaskets and, you know, all types of different things with it. It's not a hard, durable filament. And the problem with some of that is that most printers have problems, and you have to only print with like a 95A, which is a harder TPU filament. And what we end up seeing here is a PTFE tube, Bowden tube, we'll just say Bowden tube. And what happens is that filament goes through and it hits resistance points inside that Bowden tube. Well, Creality with the KliTek system ends up having two extruder systems. So they have the extruder system on the tool head itself that pulls the filament. And then what's going to happen is you're going to have at the spool location, which we're assuming is going to be on the side of the machine, there's probably going to be a little box there that the filament's going to feed through there. There's gears in there that are going to push the filament as well. So you're going to have a push-pull type of thing for your TPU, which supposedly allows for the printing of not only 95A without any problems, it'll even print 80A, which is ADA, 80 alpha TPU, which is like super sponge. It's absolutely crazy, and it's really hard to print that stuff up. So with this dual S-drive system of pushing the TPU and pulling it, it gets away from having all the friction. It gives good feed and good flow. And they even talked about how the flow on this is going to be something it's going to, I think it was like 5 times faster or something like that. It was absolutely crazy. And let's see if we can get here. Dual motor push and pull, and he explains a little bit on how that, so basically you're pushing and pulling, whereas opposed to just pulling the filament that is going to stretch it out and cause problems, or, you know, pull it and then try to send it into the nozzle. That's where you get some, you know, the filament gets all bundled up. Supposedly this system it overcomes that problem. And let's see, do we got anything else here? Basically, they talk about some colors, and we can hit that up a little bit. As we talked about in previous, this is a bonus. The full spectrum, or using filament, and with the 4 colors of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, you can get different shades of colors, and that is going to open up a whole can of options. So, I mean, how many do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. We've got 36 different colors here off of 4 colors. 36. So instead of having multiple CFS systems or multi-material systems, we don't have to do that anymore. This is huge. This is like your printer, your computer printer, you know, a full color printer based off of those colors. So this is going to be really, really crazy on how this is going to change the game. And this isn't a new technology from Creality. Other people have brought it up, but Creality's taken it, and so are other companies. And they're running with this and doing their own thing. So, yeah, competition breeds excellence. So with that, hey, we got Terry. Good morning. Good morning, or good evening to you, sir. Yeah. Adventive pops in and says, since the release is 6 months out, I might be able to justify getting the K3 Plus in January 2027. I'm hoping. I'm hoping there's a K3 Plus, but we'll talk about that. But yeah, the color choices that we got going on is absolutely crazy. The other thing that I noticed, this is a huge jump for Creality, because if we look at a company called Bamboo and their printers, they've got 20 or 30 some odd sensors, and you know, they're very boom, sensors everywhere to make this as user-friendly as possible, to make it an automated system. Well, Creality is now jumping into that same thing. Let me see, where is it? There it is. Boom, there's the page. 37 sensors in this system. So now we're looking at where Creality had a handful of sensors, and it was kind of like that, but Bamboo was king on far as the sensors and all of that stuff. Creality has now stepped up, and now we've got 37 sensors, and 12 of those, 12 are dedicated to the nozzle calibration, to the point of where the deviation is only going to be 25 microns. That's insane. If you look at a resin printer and the details that a resin printer can print, that's 50 microns. A human hair is like average between 50 and 100 microns. So we're talking some insane details. Matter of fact, I want to show you some insane details on what we can get with a 3D printer. Or a resin printer that was set at 50 microns. And I did a little kit bashing here, but look at the chains on this. This is 50 microns. This is kind of like the standard setting for resin printers in the details. I mean, look at the chains on there. All of that is absolutely insane. So, you know, when I'm amazed on the details that we get on that. Look on the, down at the bottom by there, you know, he's got those super small, that is just insane. The details that you can get on that. 50 microns, talk about precision, holy crow, 25 micron deviation. That is some serious calibration for the nozzle. So you're gonna have to have a lot of sensors. They've got a bunch of other sensors, which I would be very interested in learning what those look at. And this is just a huge step for Creality. So this is gonna be a huge thing right here. Talking about the K3, they did say that the K3 is going to be their new series of printers, probably similar to the K2 series, which if you remember, there was the K2 and that came out and everybody's like, ooh, yay. And then they came out with the K2 Plus, which is what I have, which is a 350 build area. The K2 was what, 260 cubed? And then the K2 Pro, which is 300. So we've got K2, K2 Plus, K2 Pro. Interesting. The K3 series is what Creality says that they're doing. I'm going to go out on a limb, and they did too, saying it's probably going to follow the same pattern, this at least in regards to build plate area. So when we were guessing the other day and trying to think about, you know, well, is it going to be like 260, 270? Remember, I kind of said around hopefully 270-ish. I would love to have seen 300, but now with this information, by looking at what they've done in the past, I think it's going to be 260, which is good because most computer or STL files are made for a 256 cube build plate area, the volume build area, and they're going to go up to 260. Now there's a reason for this. Your K2, your K2 Plus, and the K2 Pro, all of those PEI sheets are already made. So they don't have to reinvent the wheel. They don't have to retool. They don't have to go through and say, well, we're going to do 270. It doesn't make sense because you'd have to waste a bunch of money and that would increase the price of the printer. So actually it's pretty smart when you sit back and think about it. And you're sitting here and you're drinking and you're going, as much as I would like it to be 270, it makes financial sense. And that sense brings the price down. You don't want a company to have all kinds of different build plate sizes. And again, using the K2 series of printers as kind of a guideline of where they're going to go in the future, that's smart because it's going to keep that price low. So yeah, this is going to be pretty good. And when we talked about the build areas, the K3 build area is 260 cubed is what they said on the live stream. With the expectations, it wasn't 100%, hey, this is what it's going to be, but the two hosts of the show, Kevin and Rose, ended up saying that, yeah, it'll probably follow in the series, similar to the K2 series, which is interesting. Nothing confirmed, but I think this is what is going to happen. It's going to make sense to the same build volume, no retooling, no extra expenses, and so on and so forth. So when we take a look at this, we see that the K3 series of printers, how many nozzles are they going to have? This is kind of interesting because they address this a little bit. Obviously, it's confirmed that the K3 will have 4 nozzles using the CMYK, multicolor and all that stuff. Lorianne Brown, welcome to the stream. Why, hello. 260 cube size will also let them keep the price range to compete with the U1 and Creator 5. I expect it'll be around $800 to $900. I think you're right on the money on that. I came to the same conclusion, thinking that you don't have to added expense. You still want to remain competitive with Snapmaker and FlashForge, even though FlashForge has kind of shot themselves in the foot on a couple of things. But we won't talk about that. But the K3 Pro, if that's going to be a 300 cube build area, how many nozzles is that going to have? Well, the one host on the Creality live stream ended up saying 6, but it's not confirmed. And then the K3 Plus, which would be a 350 cube build area, 8. That's what he's guessing. Creality won't even tell them. So they're just kind of, looking back at the K2 series, and then if we can get 4 on this, maybe we could get 6 on the Pro, and then maybe we could get 8 on, which I definitely think you'd get 8 on like a K2 Plus build area. So yeah, this could be really good. But that's what they're guessing so far. Now, another important thing that they wanted to talk about was on the K3 was open source. That seems to be an interesting little thing that is popping up lately, especially when we see all the stuff coming up with Bamboo, and Bamboo's in a little bit of legal trouble. They're kind of flexing, they're throwing their chest out there. And even though people have taken the open source code and taken like Bamboo machines and they're basically jailbreak them and be able to print using third-party slicers like Orca, Bamboo says, hey, you better stop that or we'll send you a cease and desist. But the thing is, it's all open source. So yeah, there's a lot of problems. Now, the whole idea of open source is that somebody came up with some stuff and said, hey, this is going to be open source, so everybody can benefit from the technology and the things that we're doing. And you can run with it and you can put your own spin on it, but it still has to be open source. So for them to get on to, they're just being jerks. But Creality is making, I saw in the live stream that it's like they are dedicated to open source. So that remains to be seen. Advent of Live Economy, let me get back. We'll hit that up real quick. So it's kind of interesting that we end up seeing that this open source is going to be open source. They're going to be open source friendly is what it comes down to. They talked about the routing of machines and using Fluid with path systems and so on and so forth. And according to them, Creality is not going to lock down their system like some other companies have. FlashForge has locked down their system and they incorporated ads and other stuff that it was like, wait a second, I don't want this stuff. That's not why I bought the printer, was to be an ad funnel. And so I'm kind of excited about that. We'll see how much they give back. We'll see how much they give back to the open source. Bamboo has their open source, and there's minimal requirements to be open source. You have to give back a certain amount of stuff. Bamboo does the bare minimum, and even sometimes that's a little bit questionable. But when it comes to Creality, interesting. It'll be interesting to see how this goes. But I thought it was a good move because with all of the others out there that are not being friendly open source, that Creality took the time to say, yes, we are open source friendly. So with that, I think what we're going to end up seeing is an evolution of Creality and their machines. Obviously, their software, their slicer, and so on and so forth, are doing all these neat things with this multi-tool system. So we'll see how that goes. Dun, dun, dun. Let's get back and get to some comments. Ned Venom says, in addition to several K2 Pluses, I have the Snapmaker U1. I really like it, but I'd love to have a K3 Plus to replace it. Absolutely. Staying with the same brand helps with repairs. With that being said, I totally agree, but the tool head is going to be totally brand new. And so you're going to have a unicorn nozzle. Obviously, you're going to have, different parts from the K2 Plus to the K3 Plus, which hopefully will come out next year, early next year. I got to start saving some nickels. So if you want to donate, you can always buy me a coffee, because Lord knows I love my lattes. Link is in the description box. But otherwise, I'll be relegated to, finding cans and getting refunds and building up my K3 Plus fund. I'm already starting to set some money aside for that. This is going to be good. I'm hoping this is going to be good. I'm crossing fingers and toes, and we'll see how that goes. Lori says that she agrees with Inventive. Other than the Centauri Carbon, my print farm is all Creality with 9 printers. Wow. Definitely want to add a K3 and Ender 3V3 Max. Mega. Ender V3 Max or Mega? I know the Max. I thought about getting the big chunky monkey there, but I live in an apartment here in Korea, 4-bedroom, 2-bath, and so we have people above us, we have people below us. We got people on the other side of us, but where my hobby print room is, there's nobody there, so I don't have to worry about sound. But I am considerate of the people above and beyond and below us, and so that's why I didn't go for the Ender 5 Max. So Mega, I have 2 E5 Max too. The Mega, oh, Lori says that there's a Mega. There is a Mega? Ender 5. Oh, we got to look at that. Ender 5 Mega? Ender 3 V3 Mega. Wow, really? V3. Dun. Lori says the Mega is also new, 420 by 420. Ooh, it's a bed slinger. Oh, okay. Ender series, let's look at that. I've got the Ender 5 Max, Ender V3 Plus. Ender 5 Max was, what was that, 400? 400 build area? Trying to take a look at that. Where is it? I guess we could take a look here. See, we get the Ender 5 Max, which is 400 cube. So we got that there. But flagship, high series, Ender 5 V3. But wow, Ender 3 V3, large size output, is this it? Key features, got it, 300 by 300, 300 by, what is that? 300 by 300 by 330, okay. So I'm not seeing a Mega on here, so I guess that's going to be a future, let's see, more products. More products. Spark, okay, whatever. I don't see it there. Maybe the blog? We'll see what happens. Don't see anything. Okay. But I'll take your word for it. I'll have to do some searching on that. But that is, wait a second. Let me see. Did I find something? V3. No, that's not the Mega. Okay. So anyway, it should be good to go. Where we were the comments, blah, 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 blah. Mega is also new, 420. Lori ended up saying it's 420 by cube for bed slinger. Wow. A bed slinger that is 420 by 420? Interesting. Lori says, look at the link I posted. The problem is, you all, I can't view the link. I'm not seeing it on mine. Let me see if I can pull up the live stream on YouTube, and maybe it'll show up there. So let me take a look, because I don't think they allow. Yeah, it doesn't show a link. And I'm looking at the live stream, and it doesn't show the link. So tell me what the link is. Ender Mega. I don't want Ender Mega. Let's see. Creality. Ender Mega. Okay. The only thing oh, maybe it is. Oh, I did find something. And it is, yes. And I'll just throw this up on the screen right here. So basically, this is a Facebook post that talks about the Mega. And Ender 3 B3 Mega delivers both at production scale, 420 cube, holy crow, can print 85A TPU out of the box with minimal tuning, auto filament relay, keeps prints going when spools run out, kind of similar to, what was the name of that system? I even got that system where it runs out and it automatically knows, not a CFS, but for large spools, RFD and run out tangle detection, auto bed leveling, blah, 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 all of that stuff. So yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing, a large format. Let me see if we can pop the picture up here and kind of show everybody the Mega that Lori mentioned. Thank you for bringing that up. So there it is, a huge bed slinger. Holy crow. That is kind of wild. So you got your two spools up there. I wonder how sturdy that's going to be. That is huge, huge. But very good, very good. I like that. Okay. She could email you the link. Well, I found it. I found it on Facebook. Let's see if I can find it on. Oh, here's the Creality link. No, it's the Ender 5 Max Mega Printer. Oh, it doesn't have it listed yet. So it's coming out. It's coming out, but yeah, that's some good stuff. Comes with dual spool auto refill. Yeah, that's really good. I've gotten to the place with my K2 Plus that I use like 2.5 and 3 kilo spools. So, and I just use I don't use the CFS system. I just have it coming out and, you know, boom, just go big or go home. So yeah, some very interesting stuff that we end up seeing there. What are some other things that came up besides being open source friendly? They talked about how this is going to be a release for, if we can get that in there, Dad, maybe. It's going to be released in the third quarter of this year. So in other words, the year is broken up into quarters, and the third quarter is July to the end of September. So we're going to see the first K3 in the K3 series come out by the end of September. Some people asked about, well, is there going to be a pre-release? Can you pre-order and so on and so forth? And the hosts end up saying, no, we're just going to, when we're ready to sell them, we're going to sell them. So again, this kind of leads me to believe that because of their IPO and because of the advanced system that they're putting out, they're going to be more prepared for the sale of this K3 than any prior printer that they've had. They've kind of fumbled around a little bit, but I think they're reaching the point of where this is a big step for Creality. And yeah, they're not doing pre-release, no pre-orders. It seems like they're going through the steps to make sure that this is going to be a better release than printers in the past, which I really appreciate. But time will tell, so we'll see how that goes. Ned Venom says, I have a love-hate reality with Creality in my CFS. I usually just let the spool run out. Not much multicolor, if any. Yeah, I get that. The thing I like about this multi-nozzle unit system, the one tool head and then the 4 nozzles, is that you could put 4 kilos or 4 spools of filament, not even 4 kilos. You could do, which is interesting. Could you do 2.5 and 3 or 5 kilogram spools with this K3 series? I don't know. That'll be interesting. It'll be very, very interesting to see. You might have to make a different and print out a different spool holder system. We're assuming they're going to be on the sides of the machine to accommodate a 2.5, 3, or 5 kilo spools. Probably 2.5 or 3. Probably not 5. Because that would have to take up some serious real estate. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that. But my CFS, I've had some issues with it. Have to go through, break it down, clean it out, and so on and so forth. But since most of the stuff that I do is like cosplay stuff, we do some cosplay items, the big sword in the background there that we see there. Did a chain sword, some other stuff. It's going to the local Warhammer game store. So I don't normally deal in colors. I just prime and paint and do all that stuff. But now we would have the option to have, instead of a CFS, and have it change from the CFS with long retraction times and so on and so forth. We could end up just having 3 kilo spools, and you could just run forever, and not have to worry about it, which is really nice. I got a 2.5 and 3 kilo spools, kilogram spools, and I'm just like, I never want to go back to 1 kilo spools. It's just, no. So my CFS has a bunch of dust. But for colors, I don't do a lot of colors. But with this, that might change. 2.5 kilogram spool of, CMK and all of that. Then I might not have to paint some stuff or paint as much. So that's interesting. Lori says that she has 2 CFSs with no issues, one on my K2 Pro and one on the High. I recently did, that's good to know, I recently did the firmware upgrade on the K2 Plus, and I had some issues, and it was like, I had previously, with the previous version, I calibrated my filament for the Polymaker Polychrome matte PLA that I use, and after I did the upgrade and shut it down and restarted, did all the stuff that you're supposed to do, printed out a benchy, and it was some ugly benchies. And so I had to go back through, choose the generic Polymaker PLA matte profile, and it printed out great. So I get it. I'm just going to have to calibrate it again. And it looks pretty good. I might not have to calibrate it. So it's getting to the point where it's like, it looks good. So that's encouraging right there. But we'll see how that goes. Let's see some of the other stuff. So by third quarter, we're going to see the K3. Am I going to get the K3? Probably not. I'll hold out until the K3 Plus with the bigger build area. Ned Venom says, I have noticed that after my latest update, my CFS does not grind as much anymore. Ooh. I might have to check and play with my CFS and see if it's working well. It was working okay. Had a couple issues, had to tear it apart, like I said, but I mostly do single color. But with this K3 series, that might change my mind, because if I could have doing a chain sword, I could print it out in the different colors. So let's take a look. I'll show you what I mean. So here is said chain sword. And if you end up like this part of the blade is red, this part is gold. You could have some parts in silver and of course black and of course, some different colors. But yeah, I'm just kind of encouraged because you could actually take this thing and print it out and not have to do a ton of priming or painting or processing, stuff like that. So yeah, pretty interesting. So something like this, and being able to print that out and do the whole color thing. I like realistic looking things, so I'll probably still do some painting, but if I ever get into doing a side gig, it's nice to know that with all those different colors, like we ended up seeing on their little color wheel thing that they popped up on there with that system, like we see here, boom, we could end up foregoing a lot of that priming and painting and that type of processing and so on and so forth. So if it's a side gig, it's like, hey, here we go, you know. So I don't know, I might be pretty interested in multicolor now with individual nozzles, because you don't have the contamination from one nozzle to another. You don't have bleed over from one color to another. You don't have to worry about the purge and all of that stuff, which, you know, the purge. Yeah, some very interesting stuff. So yeah, I'll have to take a look at the CFS now that I did the update, and see how that works with the CFS and see if there's any improvements on that. When we're talking about, since we're talking about software, the other thing that comes into play with the K3 series, and we're talking about the colors, we're talking about being able to print an item with 2 different nozzle sizes. And they ended up showing like a column with a 0.4 nozzle, and then the infill was printed with a 0.8. Interesting. But if you think about it, it's like 0.4 and then 0.8, you got some different sizes of filament, you know, the filament that comes out of the nozzle. So there's going to have to be some software magic that goes on that keeps everything level and plumb. So if you're printing the walls of something at a 0.4 nozzle and then you're printing the infill with a 0.8, you still have to have that flat. So there's going to be some huge upgrades to the Creality slicer program and whatever other bells and whistles that they're going to do. Of course, with the full spectrum color changing and all that, that's going to be huge. So like I said, this is, you know, in the beginning you think about it and you're like, they're coming out with a new printer, whoop-de-doo, whatever. But when you really stop to think about it, this is huge for Creality. So we're talking about, not only are they putting out a new printer, 37 different sensors, 12 just for the nozzle calibration, you know, the 25 micron deviation, there's some awesome precision and accuracy there. How is that going to come into play? And with the slicer, you're going to have to redo the slicer and put some serious work into it. So this is a huge, massive step for Creality of stepping into the arena with the big boys, which the big boys I would say would be Prusa and Bamboo Labs. So I'm kind of encouraged. Creality had some bumps in the road previously, as any other printer company does. I'm just pretty excited about this. I'm not a shill, or I'm not paid by Creality or anything like that. I don't get paid by anybody. I get a few nickels from my YouTube videos, and even then I don't know how to get the money out of my AdSense into my bank account because it won't accept my credit union. So I got to figure out, if somebody knows how to get the money out of AdSense, I don't know, can you send it to PayPal or something? I have no idea. This old dog needs help. So yeah, it's old dogs need help. Your small donation could help an old man get through the problems and frustrations of technology. Yes, it is. Love being old, sort of, except for the slow, creaky, aching parts of my body. But with that being said, yeah, a lot of cool stuff is coming out on this. Now, when you have a multi-tool head system, and like it end up, you know, you see like with the Snapmaker, the FlashForge Creator 5 Pro, and then they all have their little filament tubes, you know, on the top. You're going to have some type of enclosure on the top. And we've seen that with the Snapmaker. But what will will the, that's the release date. That's not what I wanted. The enclosed printer, the top of it, is it going to look cool? I don't know. I hope it looks cool. But really, it looks, if you look at the SnapMaker, if you look at the Creality is kind of rough. Let me see if we can bring up the SnapMaker. SnapMaker machines, and we'll take a look and SnapMaker U, because it's going to be similar, and this is going to tie into how much is the price going to be. This is going to be pretty interesting as well. So when we look at the SnapMaker U1, and it's going to come up in about a few seconds here, and there it is. We see that it was like basically $1,000, but you've got your PTF E-tubes, and you're gonna have the feature add-on. Let's say we're gonna throw that into the mix. Explore items, yeah. Oh, that's a pre-order. But basically it's just kind of like a clear enclosure that's gonna go be a top cover for that and go over the top of that. And then of course you have the Flash Creator. Flash Forge has their own deal going on with that, so that'll be kind of an interesting thing. What is it going to look cool? Or is it going to end up like Uncle Jesse, where he ended up on his SnapMaker U1, went to like Walmart and got a tote, and somebody had made an adapter to put on the top of it using a Walmart tote. I'm hoping it'll be a real cool looking type of thing, but it is what it is. Price point, we know that the Creator Flash Forge Creator 5 Pro, or whatever it is, 4-tool head system similar to the SnapMaker U1 and now the K3 series, we're looking at about the same price point, probably around $900 to $1,000, so that it can stay competitive with those two machines and others that have multi-tool heads, which I don't know of any other ones that do. If you do, pop up and let me know in the comments. I'd like to be made aware of those things. So I'm guessing it's probably, I want it to be $900 or $950, something less than $1,000, because I can do. But even if it was $1,000, I think it'd be good. $900 to $1,000. I'm gonna. Probably going to be $999 or something, kind of like what SnapMaker did. It ended up being like $999. So that'll be the price point that I'm guessing. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Lorianne Brown says, as far as multi-tool heads, Bamboo H2C and the Prusa XL. Yeah, except the Prusa XL is like you have to give away your firstborn to afford a 4-tool head changer on that thing. Holy crow, that is amazingly expensive. And they just don't have the Chinese supply chain that most Chinese companies have. But if we take a look at and Lori even says, yeah, and both of them are overpriced. So, so with the Prusa XL, with 2 tool heads, that's $2,700, and then it can go up to 5. But if you're talking about 5, now that pops up to $3,600. And H2C, I'm not even, let's see, Bamboo, H2C. I know that's expensive. Not as expensive as the Prusa XL, that's for sure. Done with the Vortex system. No, I don't want Korea. $2,400, so definitely cheaper than Prusa. But yeah, Creality can pull this off. I think a lot of people will see, hey, in offering the different build sizes with the K3, like a K3 or K2 or K3 Plus, and then a K3 Pro, kind of like the K2 series, that is going to be a huge draw for people. Lori brings up the point that Bondtech index system still hasn't been released. I know. This is where I'm right there with you and kind of wondering, you know, I'm really surprised that that is happening. I thought this would be a done deal for the Core 1, and it's not. It's being pushed back. On the other side of the coin, I appreciate that Prusa isn't rushing the printer to market and having problems and just to get it out the door, which, you know, a lot of companies do. But still, that's going to push back. If the index system is being pushed back on the Core 1 and the Core 1 Plus, it's definitely going to push back the Core 1L with the index system even further. And that was a system that I was considering on getting because, you know, index system, induction cooling, coil in heating, which is super fast. Honestly, I didn't think Creality would be jumping on it. I thought a multi-tool head system they would do, but I didn't think they would do the induction because I think it was just a bit too much for them to bite off. And seeing that Prusa is having problems with the index system kind of validates my belief in just a little bit. So yeah, we're looking at the end of September for the K3, which is nice. And, oh, let's look that up. That's something I want to look up. When was the Creality K2, K2 Plus, and K2 Pro machines released, and how much time between each machine? We'll see how this pops into play. Ooh, man, that Hawaiian coffee. Blueberry strudel is the bomb. Let's see, it's thinking. Boy, it's 22 seconds. Grok is like dragging on this. It's like, thinking hard. It's going at 30 seconds. But we'll look at, hopefully, the K2 series of printers for Creality and when they released and when the next one was and when the next one was. We can kind of get an idea, maybe a pattern of on the K3 series and kind of a timeline of when those are going to be released. So it's still thinking. Holy crow. It's going on for a minute or so. Let's see. As that is thinking, let's just drop into this one here. Things I want to see. Yeah, I want good LED chamber lighting inside the printer. The K2 Plus came out and I was like, ooh, wow, cool. I took a gamble on it. It ended up being a great printer. I enjoy it. Haven't had any problems, though I did replace, I take that back. I did have a problem with the K2 Plus with a lot of clogs in the first 300 or 400 hours. And then I switched to a micro Swiss hot end and I haven't had any clogs yet. And I'm probably about, I know I'm over 2,000, maybe 2,020 hours or something like that. With the last print that I did, and I haven't had a clog since. So, and then I also got a Ramen graphite bed, which is great. The level of that, it heats up faster, cools down faster. Just a great piece of kit. But do you absolutely need it? No, I just did it because I could. It's just kind of like upgrading the stereo in your car. The one that's in there, the factory one, works. But I upgraded it and boom. Let's see. Lori pops in and says the K2 Plus was June 2025. K2 and K2 Pro were in August. And K2 Plus timed releases. This is what I wanted. Boom. So let me move this out of the way. So the K2 Plus to the K2 Pro was about 13, 14 months. from July to August. K2 to K2 Pro released on the same day in August. So yeah, kind of that's what we ended up seeing there. Could it be about 13 months? I don't know if it'll take that. Maybe I will buy a K3. If it's going to take that amount of time, I don't know. We'll see. 2024. Lori says sorry. No problem. I wouldn't have caught that, but you caught it. That just shows you how smart the people are on this stream, and that's why I like hanging around you all. But some good things I would like to see. Good LED chamber lighting. The K2 Plus, I don't think printers have really good LED lighting. And so with the K2 Plus, I got an aftermarket LED strip in there, and boom, it lights up. You can see everything. So I'm hoping that the K3 series will have better LED lights than the previous ones. So Creality, if you're watching this, get with the program, put in a lot of LED lights. I'll spend an extra $3-4. Promise, I will. The other thing I'd like to see is a power switch on the front. I know, I hate doing the reach around. Reach arounds are bad. I don't like it, especially if you have a system, and it's just a pain in the butt. I worked with industrial machines and furniture shops and fiberglass and a bunch of other industrial machines that are, the power switch is on the front. My TV, the power switch is on the front. The most electronic devices for consumers, the power switch is on the front, except with 3D printers. You got to do the reach around. So I'm hoping that's always a dream. And I know some people are going to end up saying, they're going to say, well, it takes extra wiring, and in the back, you got your power supply and this and that and blah, 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 blah. I get it. I've worked on industrial machines with emergency power switches and mechanical, power disconnects, and the whole night. I've been there, done that. I get it. I just want the power switch on the front. The Uniformation GK3 has the power switch on the front. If they can do it, 3D printing companies can do it, and if all the other consumer electronics and industrial machines can do it, 3D printing companies could do it as well. So I'm not holding out much hope, but someday some company is going to put out a machine where the power switch is on the front, and I will be happy. The other thing we're going to look at is I want a cool looking top enclosure, kind of similar to the Snapmaker. Theirs looks pretty hot. Looking for about a $950 price point. $1,000, it wouldn't break the bank. I'd still get it. And then the other thing that I'd like to see and wonder about is the large spool compatibility. So we already know that there's probably going to be side spool holders on the side of the K3 machines that will accommodate, obviously, 1 kilogram spools. Can you make your own little axles to accommodate 2.5 and 3 kilo spools? What about 5 kilo spools? And with that, because of the dual S-drive extruder system that is normally going to be used for TPU, I'm assuming it's going to disengage for regular filament like PLA, ASA, ABS, and all that stuff, the normal filaments, that you won't need that push and pull of the filament like you do with TPU. Will you be able to use larger spools? Because I'm telling you right now, once you go big, it's hard to go back. I get 2.5 and 3 kilo spools, and I love it because I don't have to worry about how much filament do I have left, and is there going to be a change, and this and that. Is there going to be a line, in my print, and most of my stuff is cosplay stuff or functional items. But, questions need to be answered. And that's one of the things that I would like to know. So, and imagine having 4 3 kilogram spools of CMYK and having up to, 20, 30 some odd colors available. You just print colors to your heart's content. I don't like changing 1 kilo spool, 1 kilo spool, the CFS retraction, all the time that it takes. And of course, the purge waste. You're definitely going to save material with this K3 series. So are there other things that you all would like to see with the K3 series on Creality? Put it in the comments. Let me know. Dun, 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 dun. Let's see. Get some comments. Lori says, I don't think they planned on to do a smaller K2S originally, which is why it took longer. This time they're planning on the K3 being a series. It could be. So it could be shorter. I'm hoping it's shorter because I really want to get another printer. And I never buy the printer when it first pops out. I never buy anything as soon as it comes out. I always wait for other people, guns, gear, the whole 9 yards. Throughout my whole life, I always just sat back and was like, we'll let somebody else be the guinea pig and be the beta testers, which is what happens with 3D printing, all companies. And then through firmware upgrades and so on and so forth, you get over those hurdles and boom, you finally have a good working printer. I don't know. This could make me buy the printer. If it was a K3 Plus with a 350 build area, I would buy it right out of the box. If that was the first one being released, but it's not. So we'll wait and we'll see how that goes. Yeah. Dun, dun, dun. Lori says she agrees on the power switch. USB should be on the front or the side towards the front. I know. The whole thing with the reach around the back with, if you want to put the Wi-Fi, if you want to put the, Cat5 connector on the back for, I get that. Put that on the back. Power switch should be on the front. USB connection should be on the front. It just makes sense. And I get it. Back in the day, companies were trying to save money and trying to, as much as they can, but we're getting to we're getting to a time in 3D printing where it's like, hey, we need to make this as user-friendly as possible, and I think that would be a good draw. At least, I think it would. Anyway. Nedvenev says, I can understand the power switch on the back is so much easier with the switch being part of the actual power supply. I get that too, but here's where I disagree with that because, like I said, I worked in industrial machinery, and when fires break out, reaching around when a machine is on fire is not something that you want to do. And so that's why all industrial machines have an emergency power switch on the front. So that way, boom, you hit that and you're good to go. With that being said, with my K2 Plus or any, resin printers and things like that, I always have a power strip that is away from the item itself because I worked in industrial electronics. And I'm like, hey, if something's very hot and smoke and things are going, bad things and evil things are emanating from the machine, I can hit that power switch and strip and remove power. So I know the average person doesn't have that type of experiences, and they, majority of people won't. So, dun, 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 dun. Let's see. I do not like being on the bleeding edger either. Lori says, I live on the edge. Ha ha ha. High combo, K2 Pro bought immediately on release. Spark i7, Creality sent me pre-release. Oh, really? Well, congratulations. I keep thinking one of these days, some printer company is going to run across my videos, and I send emails and messages. Hey, if you want an honest reviewer and blah, blah, blah. Haven't gotten anything yet, so we'll see. I get the crappy stuff. I get the stuff where it's like from a Gmail address, hey, review my product and blah, 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 and it's like kitchen accessories or, some crap off of Amazon that has nothing to do with my channel. I get those, but those automatically go to the trash. But I'm hoping someday, a company will reach out and say, hey, would you like to, review some stuff? So cool, that's cool. There's hope. There's still hope. Let's see, Ned Venev says, I think I broke at least 5 USB sticks on the K2 when I was reaching around the back, forgetting that I had the USB stick still in the machine. Ouch. Ooh, that could be rough. Oh man, breaking the USB. Yeah, I just don't like that reach around. Does anybody like a reach around? Dun, dun, dun. Lori says I was part of their Pioneer program for the Spark X. Oh, cool, cool. I did recently sign up because as I was searching the interwebs and all that stuff, I was searching and I found the Pioneer program thing. So it was like only a few days ago that I signed up for that. So, got to typing and writing and all that stuff. And yeah, hopefully, I don't know, we'll see what happens. I would really, really like to do some reviews. And I think I could be fair and impartial because really, it's either going to work and live up to its advertised claims or it's not. That's pretty much what it is. And from the perspective of somebody who has some experience, that's all fine and dandy. And, I've probably forgotten a lot about electronics than I want to acknowledge. But really, the people that they're trying to get to are new people who don't have experience in electronics or 3D printing. So coming at it with experience, but seeing how a new user would approach this and say, hey, unboxing, setup, all of this stuff, is it easy? Does it make sense? Does it make it clear as day that I need to remove these screws and this and that, and how user-friendly it is? We're getting to a point of where, Prusa does a real good job on that. Bamboo does a real good job on that. Creality, I think, is doing a better job on that as well. So that comes into play. And really, it just comes down to, this is what the company says it will do, and does it do it? And do you have any problems? Is it, and really it just comes down to making an information video and experience of saying, hey, to give the customer or the viewers more information to make an informed decision. That's really what it comes down to. Every company has had problems in the past. And so I'm not a fanboy. And if you look back at my old videos, I was I'm not going to say I was critical of Creality because of some things that they've done in the past. But then you look at pretty much every other printer company and they've done some questionable things in the past too. But they've grown over time. And you learn from your mistakes and those lessons. And, we probably shouldn't have said that or did this or whatever. We shouldn't have pushed this out so quick. And they're getting to where 3D printing and the people that want those things want a more polished and finished product than a few years ago, where let's push out the product and we'll let the customers be the beta testers and then we'll just fix it. But the sole goal was pushing out the printers as fast as possible. We'll fix them later. I think we're getting away from that. And I think Creality is getting away from that. I'm hoping, fingers crossed. And I think they will, because their IPO is here. And now they have shareholders. Now they have a vested interest for their stockholders to put out good stuff or not. And that will reflect in the share price. So now I think the IPO is a wonderful thing for Creality, not only because you can make some money or other people, you can buy their stock and hopefully make money off of that. But I think it puts more eyes and it puts more focus and more accountability on the things that they're doing. They're going to be held to a higher standard than what they were before. And the fact that their IPO was approved on, May 29th, a couple of days ago, that's huge. So there's so much potential that Creality could do. I'm really hoping that they jump for it. So we'll see what happens. This is kind of some interesting stuff. The KliTek system, which I still don't understand the name. As I went through the live stream, usually it's, hey, they use some name and explain the name. I think Creality also has let me see if I can pull it up. They do scanners, they do laser engravers. They also have the Hallet, which is a resin printer. I haven't looked at that at all. It just is, but Creality scanners. And let's see what Creality scanners, because scanners. Because of the naming convention, we have like raptors, we have otters, we have ferret, and so it's kind of like animal type names, and some companies will, kind of have reasons for the names that they have, kind of like constellations or things like that. or, you know, kind of like, oh, here it is. Like Lorianne Brown says, Clipper, Vortec, KliTek, Clipper Tech. But the Vortec, I kind of thought that, and somebody else brought that up as well. That doesn't make sense because it's not a Vortec. Vortec is a bamboo thing. So why would you include that in the name of your product if you're not bamboo? I don't. And Clipper, yeah, it's Clipper, but it wasn't really pushed. It wasn't pushed on the live stream of saying, hey, they did mention that it's open source. They did mention Fluid, and you can go and you know, do all that stuff. But it wasn't really a hard Clipper push. So, yeah. The new scanner is the Pico, which is also a small rodent. Exactly. It was funny because I was watching Grant from 3D Musketeers was doing his video, and he couldn't understand why the scanner was called the Pico. And it's like, well, you got the otter, you got the ferret, now you have the Pico, and they're all small rodents. So it was just kind of cute that, you know, they're racking their brains trying to figure out, well, why is this? And I would have thought he would have picked up on that. But yeah, you know, the otter light, ferret pro, you know, the Pico is coming out. That's going to be interesting. So, but yeah, Vortec isn't a bamboo thing. I know, but in the 3D printing world, when you say Vortec, what I think immediately comes to mind for me is bamboo. Let's see, 3D printing, Vortec. Let's see what pops up on the searches. The Vortec system is a hardware module introduced by Bamboo Lab on the H2C. What is some other stuff? All Vortec, Bamboo Lab, Bamboo Lab, Vortec, Bamboo Lab. It's inundated with Bamboo Lab. So obviously Bamboo is spending some money for some advertising in search results on Google. Oh yeah, but it's all, so, and that's the reason I say that is Vortec other than bamboo. Let's see if that pops up anything. Nope. It all just reverts to bamboo. Which, that being said, I think, Lori says, I think someone else coined the term first. Oh yeah, probably. I'm pretty sure somebody had made that up before. Vortec. I don't know what that would stand for. What does Vortec mean? What does, of course, if I spell it right, what does Vortec stand for? It's not an acronym. Depending on the context, stylized words, whatever, common uses for Bamboo Labs. 3D design software, Vortex spaces, used to create 3D renders, automotive, yeah, so there's that. Oh, here's abbreviation that it stands for. What does Vortex stand for? Verification of orange of rotation in tornadoes. Verification of the origins of rotation experiment. Virtual object runtime expository. And that's what we got. I don't know. So yeah, Lori was right. It came out. It was definitely a word. But it's like an abbreviation or something. But in the 3D printing world, it seems like it's 3D printing. Bamboo is what comes to mind. But then again, I'm not that smart. That's why I need you all. That latte is good. So yeah, this is kind of some interesting stuff that we are seeing on the K3 series. And like some other people were saying, Lori, for that matter, is we'll probably see a shorter timeline for the K3 series of printers. I think we're going to see the K3 come out by the end of September, third quarter of this year, which is exciting. The build area is going to be 260 cubed, according to Creality on that. There's speculating that the K2 Plus or the K3 Plus and the K3 Pro, if it follows the same pattern that the K2 series, is that, yeah, we'll eventually have K3 KliTek systems that are 256 cube, 300 cubed, and 350 cube for build areas. So I'm going to hold out for the 350 cube area on the K3 Plus. So will it be the K3 that comes up, and then the K3 Plus, and then a K3 Pro, kind of like what we saw? Or is it going to be a K3, and then a K3 Pro, and then a K3 Plus, you know, for 260, 270, or what is it, 300, and then 350 build areas? I don't know. I'm hoping, yeah, the K3 Plus comes after the K3, because I will be all over that. I usually don't buy something right out the gate, but if the K3 comes out and then they have the K3 Plus and the K3 does well, I'll jump on that. I will, because really you're just scaling everything up. That's all you're doing. All the bumps will be figured out with the K3, and when they do the K3 Plus or the K3 Pro, it'll be a lot easier and it'll be fun. So we'll see how it goes. So yeah, but with that, we also know that other companies are going to be doing the same thing, working on multi-material systems. Maybe some other companies will be working on induction systems similar to Bondtech. I don't know. The induction system, I think it being pushed back with the Prusa and all that stuff is it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem because you're going to have companies like Creality and other companies that are going to go with the normal nozzles, but with minimal mass, and they're going to take a lot of market share because they can get their products to market quicker because it's based on existing technology for nozzles and heat up and all that stuff. Boom, we'll be good to go. Unicorn nozzles, you don't have to reinvent the wheel on those. So, you're kind of ahead of the game on that. You don't have to reinvent things like you do with an entire index system. And I think that's why all that is being pushed back just a wee bit, which is going to push back everything that is going to have index. Because remember, the index system was just going to be an upgrade kit for printers. And then Prusa latched onto them and they said, yay, but it was still going to be just an upgrade kit. So you have to buy the Prusa machine and then buy the upgrade kit and then install it yourself. I think other companies, 3D printing companies like Creality, are saying like, yeah, we want to make a printer, put it into the hands of new people and have it work out the gate or out the box. And so you don't have to do, well, how do I put this together and what are the problems? The assembly, can the users make, again, you're adding more variables than you need to. Prusa does a good job at that with their upgrade kits, but you have to be comfortable with doing those upgrades. And I know a lot of people these days don't want that. They just want a printer that works out the box. And so I think that's another reason why they went with the regular nozzle system. And with the unicorn nozzle, now third parties are going to have like diamond nozzles, hardened nozzles, obsidian nozzles. And then you're going to look at, BitQ, frost plates for the K3 series. All of those things are going to come out. I think it's centered itself more to getting out into the market and having more third-party products available than you do with Prusa right now, because they're still trying to get it to work, which I appreciate them doing. Cockafoo, hey, Cockafoo comes in and says they learned from the fails with the CFS upgrade on the K1C. I think you're right on that. So I think this new series of printers is going to be really interesting, and see how that goes. So, Cockafoo says, morning all, or afternoon or morning. Well, it's morning here. It's probably afternoon where you're at. It's, what is it today? Today is 6:54 a.m. on Tuesday, 2 June. So payday was just a couple days ago, so that'll be neat. The K3 comes with high flow hardened steel nozzles. They're unicorn ones, but different from Creality's other two uniform nozzles. That's true. I forgot to mention that. Thank you for bringing that up. But yeah, the whole tool head is going to be new. So it's going to be different from all the other stuff they've done before, which leads me to believe that they're going to retire some of those machines a little bit eventually down the road. I don't think it'll be anytime soon because they can still make a bunch of money off of those machines. I mean, when we looked at it yesterday, there's some like 25, 30 different machines that they have. And that's not even counting the lasers and the engravers and, scanners and the other stuff. They have a lot of 3D printing machines, which is pretty crazy. But then again, Bamboo has a bunch too. So it'll be interesting to see how Creality streamlines into a series and a more focused approach instead of like, oh, Bedslinger, copy this, copy that, put this out, put our spin on this, and do, which they do some great improvements on said systems. But I think this is where Creality is really going to step out onto their own, and we'll see how this goes. Hobby Howie, hey, welcome to the show. It says, do you think Bamboo will come out with a tool head similar to the Snapmaker? I'm guessing they will. I think they'll see a lot of the market share. It's probably already been in the works for now. I think the Vortex system was, I don't know why they came up with that. It's like a dual nozzle system. I think it was just something that I don't know. I'm not sure on that, but I fully expect that we'll see a multi-tool head system from Bamboo. Other companies are working on it. Of course, you got Prusa has the XL, but now they're going to have the Index system someday. But I think, and then you have FlashForge, you have Snapmaker. There's going to be a push for more companies to do that. And I think Bamboo is going to do it. And when they do it, it'll be pretty good. Now the question is, will Bamboo do an induction system? I don't know. That would be good. If a small vortex comes for the X2D, watch out. Oh yeah. I mean, it wouldn't, if you already have your printer, the carcass, the frame, the plate, and all that stuff, and you just have to retrofit it with, multiple tool heads, they can do that. So yeah, I think that's what'll happen. I said, don't hate, Tombstone. I don't hate. Tombstone says he'll be getting my first. Yeah, congratulations. 3D printing is fun, man. Like I said, I'm 60 and I got into 3D printing, resin printing, because I was doing miniature painting and some of those miniatures are way too expensive. So I got into resin printing, and then I got into 3D printing, filament printing and stuff like that. And it's just like, yeah, I'm enjoying it. And the technology is wild, and it's a fun hobby to do. Tombstone says he's 58 and into flight simulators. We're close in age, but flight simulators, I'm the guy that takes off and immediately crashes in record time. So I am not a fly guy. I'm a fly guy, but I'm not a flying guy. Okay, so pretty fly for a white guy. If you got that reference, gold star. Let's see. What else do we got? Lori says she's 63. Oh, really? Wow. And I'm seeing more and more people our age or older people getting into 3D printing for whatever reason. Either it's for fun, just for the hobby aspect for it, or the designing or doing side gigs. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. And now that these things are coming out and so user friendly, you have people that are not mechanically inclined at all, and they're able to jump in and do all this stuff. So that's kind of cool. Tombstone said he started out with the COVID thing. Ned Venom said 63 as well. Really? Wow, I didn't know that. Cockafoo, 67 in 3 weeks. Holy crow. Man. All you cool people. I knew there was a reason. I knew there was a reason I liked you all. Not that I have anything against the young folks. Young folks are cool. I used to be young. At one time I was young. Yeah. But the cool thing that I like about 3D printing, that I like about wargaming and things like that, is age doesn't matter. If you have a passion for your hobby, the thing that you do, and you have a collection of people, boom. It doesn't matter what your age is, you know. And that's the cool thing. And there's a lot of cool stuff that older folks are bringing to the table, and there's a lot of cool stuff that younger folks are bringing to the table. And we get cool stuff. So what is there to hate? I don't get it, you know. And I don't care if you're Prusa, if you have Prusa, Creality, Bamboo, or whatever types of printers. If you're printing and having fun and enjoying it, or you're using it to make money, good on you. I'm not going to be, somebody accused me of being a Creality paid shill, and it's like, I wish. I wish Creality was paying me. But my printer works, and so maybe that's just my own experience, but I enjoy the printer that I have because it works. And the same thing, you have people with Bamboo and Prusa and so on and so forth. I think when the things that you buy work, that's cool. And we can, you know, share files and do all kinds of fun stuff. So, Tombstone says, I agree. Yep. It's always good. Have fun, whatever it is. It's kind of like arguing over, you know, which bicycle is better, you know, or whatever, you know, PlayStation versus, you know, whatever game systems are. Who cares? As long as you're having fun, enjoy it. Cockafoo says, no printer is perfect, just the one that works for you. Exactly. Still don't like the reach around though. Tombstone says he's going to the Flight Sim Expo in a few days. That'll be neat. So, wow, nice. Tombstone brings up about Bamboo and the new A1L, or is it the A2L? I think it's the new A2L, which is going to be a larger bed slinger from Bamboo, even though Bamboo said we're not going to do any more bed slingers. And they did another bed slinger. So the market is there. So I don't know, it just depends on whether it's going to start fire or not. For those of you who don't know, there's an ongoing problem with the A1s and their little machines that they got. That some of them are melting down, catching fire. Grant from 3D Musketeers also seems like an awesome guy. I like him. I like his videos. And they've had like 70 some odd people send in the boards that have been burned up. It seems to be a big problem. It's bigger than what it should be. And when you're talking about like a bunch of this, that is problematic, considering that I've never heard of Creality having a bed slinger start on fire, you know, or melt down like what we've seen with the Bamboo A1s. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. We got DJD, SJ7ZF, says, good catch of your streams. Tough work schedule. Got to run. Take care. Hey, have a good one at work. Thanks for dropping in. Appreciate it. Tombstone says, I'll be buying my first printer at Christmas. Cool. Yeah, so you could be in line for the K3, or I imagine a bunch of other printers are going to be coming out from other companies as well. So there'll be a plethora of deals that'll be coming out during Christmas. Steve from Arizona just subscribed. Cool. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, and the other people that are watching, if you could throw a like on the video and subscribe to my channel, I would appreciate that. I'm retired. I live in Korea, so this is my way to maintain some relationships and have some fun, and I don't know, just kind of enjoy it. Lori brings some history back and says Creality did recall the CR6SE back in the day due to bad power supplies, but no fires. Yeah, fires are bad. Fires are bad. Unless you're doing s'mores and barbecue, fires are bad when it comes to 3D printing. Cockafoo said they removed the part in the A2L CNC kitchen, opened one up. Okay, cool. Grant was still talking about that he's thinking that Bamboo's not being as serious as they should be with that, because he just went to a 3D printing convention thing and had people hand him burnt out modules still with like current printers. So yeah, I don't know if they're trying to use existing stock, and then, you know, once all that's gone and it's like, just let it go. You know, if it burns up, we replace a printer. It's cheaper to do that, use up our existing stock, and then if it melts down, we'll just give them a new printer and then it's done. It's cheaper to do that than to do a recall, you know what I'm saying? So that could be what Bamboo's doing, I'm not sure. I don't think that's cool. Tombstone says, I will say that the KliTek has me interested in Creality. Yeah, it does me too. And like I said, I was critical of Bamboo back in the day. But then again, you could pretty much point out and be critical of any 3D printing company. But what we're looking at is over time, have they improved over time? And from what I've seen so far, yes. They claim to be open source or going to be more open source friendly. That remains to be seen. We'll have to wait and see on that. Bamboo says they're open source, but they're kind of abusing their power. So, And Bamboo lied. And of course, they were already a publicly traded company when they said things like, "Oh, well, we're not gonna transmit this information via our log files. We would never do that." And then somebody, Grant 3D and his associates, got into the log files and found out that they lied and tried to gaslight everybody, and then tried to close their system through gaslighting. I don't really appreciate that. So far, I like what Creality is doing. I like what Prusa is doing. For the average user, though, is it a deal killer that Bamboo isn't playing nice with the open source stuff? No, I don't think so. Again, people just want a printer that works. They don't want to get involved in the drama, or it unboxes, it prints what I want, and I'm happy. That's what they want. So, you know, with that being said, that's how that goes. So we'll see what happens. Tombstone says, what is your honest opinion of which printer would be good for a beginner to include the easiest slicer? Let's deal with the first part, or the second part first, which is a slicer. Most slicers are pretty user-friendly. They're pretty much all the same. It's kind of like they all come from one another. They're kind of all related in the family type of thing. So companies will just take a basic slicer and they'll put their little thing on it and they'll add little things into the code, and then it gets adopted. Orca is I think Orca should be the slicing company for all machines, but you know, Bamboo doesn't, and others, you know, they're closed. FlashForge does their own thing. Of course, now with Creality is going to have their slicing system, but pretty much whatever slicer that you use that comes with your system to do what you want to do, it shouldn't be a problem. Unless you get into smaller, not well-known Chinese companies and their own little slicers and stuff, those tend to be a little bit problematic. With that, the experience that I have with 3D printing, I just have the K2 Plus, but when I was working in industrial electronics, we worked with Enders, we worked with some other printers and things in industrial settings for like doing medical casts for people, and you know, we did vapor smoothing and so on and so forth, bed slingers. They were all bed slingers back in the day. So, but now, you know, you look at SnapMaker. That's a good system. FlashForge, meh. I don't like the stance that they had on the Second Amendment, saying that they would report people if they printed out gun parts or whatever. What about cosplay? You know, that whole thing just rubbed me the wrong way. So that's why the reason I don't like FlashForge. So Prusa is good. Creality, some of those machines are good. Prusa is, Tombstone says, Prusa's overpriced. Yeah, but their upgrade system to go from a base unit to the next level to the next to the next to the next is really good because you don't have to buy a brand new printer at every step of the way. You can buy an upgrade kit. So in that aspect, that's kind of what you're paying for. But imagine if Prusa had Chinese supply chain. Oh, that would be off the chain. That would be awesome. We'll see. Tombstone says, I work for TSA and have been dealing with shutdowns and would like to have an escape from that garbage. Yeah, 3D printers are the way to go. They'll get you in there. Skua 1698, welcome to the stream, says Creality, FlashForge, Anycubic are all Orca derivatives. That's true. Talking about the slicer program. So, you have the Elegoo Centauri Carbon. That has, that's decent. Seen some good reviews on that. Similar ones. And if you're looking at like bed slingers, the Ender 5 series or 3 series, those aren't bad at all. Bamboo, with the exception of the A1 series, I wouldn't go for those because I'm just hesitant. Probably not a lot of fires. It's probably a small amount, but I'll just stay away from that. But some of the other printers are good. Creality, the K2 series, K2 Pro, that would be a good one. Elegoo Centauri Carbon's not bad. Snapmaker, those are the ones that come to mind. It kind of depends on what you want to do as well. If you just want a single nozzle bed slinger because you're just printing out some cool stuff, you're not into multi-material printing, there's a lot of different options. But if you're looking for something that is multi-material, different colors, having a multi-material system, color changes, things like that come into play. Bamboo's got some good machines. You do have Prusa, but again, they're expensive. Their old systems, their Core 1 is good. I don't know. Tombstone says he wants PLA, PETG, TPU, and ABS. Okay. Yeah, the TPU is, that's kind of problematic. Even with the K2 Plus, TPU is a problem because you have to feed the TPU through the top, so you'd have to print out your own spool holder, not have it go through the PTFE tube and just go straight into the tool head. Then it works well. And as long as the profile for your TPU is pretty good, which most profiles these days for filaments are pretty much spot on, should be good. Screw says Sobel has some cheap clipper ones, BG, and use the normal Orca slicer. Orca's doing really good on their slicer. It is really good. But Bamboo doesn't like Orca. They're kind of doing their own enclosed ecosystem thing, kind of like Xtool. They're going to do their own proprietary software, and so help me. I know there's so many things you could buy. School says TPU is his specialty. Oh, cool. So the K3 series should really interest you because they're able to print everything from 95A down to 80A. That super foamy TPU. Crazy stuff. That'll be interesting. And I didn't think I would ever get into TPU, but when I made my cell phone holder in Tinkercad and kind of, with the iPhone and the Apple Watch and the chargers, little cable track there and everything, it turned out pretty good. I noticed that, there's a magnet on here, which works and holds the phone in there. But I would like to have some strips of TPU built into the model. So I might be looking more into TPU, doing some TPU stuff for things like that. So maybe not on a wide scale or a big scale, but I would definitely be interested in incorporating TPU into some of the functional prints that I have and stuff like that. Tombstone says, does that mean they will be able to do the rest? Yeah. So you have hard TPU, which is still malleable, and that's kind of the normal stuff. But when you get further down the line, the lower the number, like 80A TPU, that is like super foamy sponge filament, which is crazy hard to use, according to some people that I've talked to. So for the K3 series to have a dual extruder system, in other words, gears that push the TPU through the tube, and then when it gets to the tool head, you have gears that are feeding it in, supposedly that is going to be able, you'll be able to print pretty much anything TPU. And they gave some examples of on the stream where they printed out a TPU shoe with 95 and I think 90 and then 80 A TPU. So yeah, it'll be interesting. So Creality, I wouldn't limit it just to Creality. I don't know, Skua, you said you're the expert on TPU, is the TPU specialty. What printers would you suggest for somebody new in the game that would accommodate, like what is a good one or two printers that you would recommend to do TPU with? And what is the learning curve that comes with that? You know, big learning curve, small learning curve, you know, big, small, whatever. I don't know. It'd be interesting to hear your two thoughts on that, Skua. Again, that's why I like hanging around y'all. Get some good people on the stream that know more than me and make me smart. I love that. My wife will tell you I need all the help I can get. So, ba-dum-dum. Do I have, I think I've got some sounds. I think I got sounds on here. Nope. No, that's not that. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. So yeah, oh, I do have some sounds. I do have a little bit of soundboard stuff, so yeah. But like I said, we'll go back to, I want a good printer that prints. If the K3 does what it's advertised to do, I think that's going to be a huge step for Creality, and especially I think it'll be a huge bonus if they have the power switch on the front and we don't have to have it in the back, so you have to do a reach around, because I don't like reach arounds. Da-dun-dun. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I just found the sound effects thing. So, yeah. So we got applause. We got a bicycle horn. The Glockenspiel. Party noises. So there will be a party when it comes out on the K3 series, and I'm really looking forward to seeing some reviews on that and influencers. I would like to see Grant 3D do it. I'd like to see CNC Kitchen. I would like to see Faux Hammer do a review of the K3 series if those get released early for, you know, put out into the wild, into the hands of reviewers. Creality, if you're watching, I wouldn't mind getting one ahead of time and putting it through its paces, but it would be a fair and honest review. But yeah, a lot, really, really looking forward. The bar is high for this K3 series. And if you look at, kind of look the path that Bamboo did and what they did, and then when they did their IPO and things just got, boom, big, fast, and in a hurry. I think Creality is going to be able to go through that and do something pretty impressive. We'll see how this goes. Let's see. Kagafu, the dual unit is an option from what Kevin was saying last night, a dual unit. Kevin from the live stream, a dual unit. I'm not sure what you're talking about there. I missed that part. Tombstone says, I just happened to come about your stream, sir, and so far I'm enjoying your opinions. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Be sure to like and subscribe, and you can hear some more. But I can guarantee you I'll probably have some opinions that you might disagree with, but that's okay too. We can all be adults here, so that's the cool part. We got cool people here. Skua says, any direct drive dual extruder, I like Soval SV06 Plus and Prusa, of course, but Bamboo Lab is the easiest. I would have to agree. Bamboo has done a lot to go from in the box to printing set up in minimal amount of time with the easiest process to get you up and running and doing your first print, I think, than any other printer out there. So let's see, we've got Zilch, Zero Zilch says Infilmec MX Pro is way better. I've never heard of that. Let's see if we can pop this up and see. Infimec MX Pro is way better. I have never heard of that before. Let's see what it says. Ooh. Kickstarter. 8 tool heads, endless creativity. Here's something interesting. The has 8 nozzles. Let's take a look at this. I want to take a look at this. Where is my desktop? Okay, there it is. Boom, boom, boom. Skua says, if we can get the thing to pop up here, I have it. The previous Infimec is good stuff, but I don't recommend a newbie. And if we look here on the Infimec, 8 tool heads, doesn't that look strangely similar to to the? Let me see if I can find the. Where is it? Oh, I need recent downloads. Recent? No, I don't have that. No, desktop. That looks oddly familiar to the Creality one. That almost the exact same. You got kind of the cutouts for the, then you have your nozzle. That looks like almost dead on. Let me redo this. Come on now. Seriously. Let's get it going. So 8 nozzles. Interesting. I've never heard of this company before. 250 by 250 by 205. Okay. I have never heard of them before. Interesting. Let's see. Ooh, oh, they're doing a Kickstarter. 8 times more efficiency, 8 times less waste. Calibration, monitoring, imagine that, blah, blah, blah. Remote field heating. That'll be interesting. I'll have to look into that. Closed loop, power, auto leveling, blah, blah, blah. 300 by 300 chamber heating. Interesting. I'll have to look into that. I'd never heard of them before, so that's kind of wild. I mean, it doesn't surprise me, but let's go back to this here. Alrighty. Let's see what else we got. We got some other comments. Tombstone says he wouldn't know because he's new. That's okay. I'm not new, and I didn't even know about Infimec. Sounds like a some type of medication. 5 out of 6 doctors recommend Infimec. Let's see. Kickstarter. Skua says Infimec is my flyby company. No enclosure, pass. No, but it looks like they have an enclosure on the bigger system. And then, of course, it has the multiple. I'm assuming it would end up having a cover that goes over the top, so it could be enclosed. They probably have a couple of different systems. So, Cockafoo says, I think it will be a 4X nozzle, 260, 6 nozzle on the 300, and 8 on the 350. talking about the K3 series. Yeah, we definitely know that the K3 is going to be a 260 cube, according to the Creality reps, Kevin and Rose, and then they couldn't say, but they said it would probably, in their mind, not confirmed, that it would follow the same pattern as the K2 Pro and the K2 Plus sizes, which would be the 300. Excuse me. Zilt says, KliTek and Infomec MX using the same base for their clones of Bondtech Index. Yeah, with the exception of without the induction heating. Screw says the reason I didn't recommend for newbies is not a standard clipper and then the difficulty to manage it. Yeah. I have had, that's interesting to know, because I had some smaller no-name Chinese companies contact me and say, hey, would you make didn't say a review video, would you make a good video review of our product? And, you know, kind of asking about slicers and so on and so forth. And it just kind of like, anybody can make a printer, but, you know, you look at the company and it recently started, they got all these pictures of tons of printers, but you don't see any reviews on them, which makes it seems a little sketchy to me. So it's like, I do honest reviews, and if it lives up to advertising, I'll let everybody know, but if it doesn't, I let people know, and blah, blah, blah. And those companies never contact me back again. So yeah, there's that. So they are part of Flying Bear. That was Russia-based company, but with sanctions, the factory split and made their own thing on focus on print farms. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Got it. They'll have two versions of the MX and the MX Pro, so same route as FlashForge. Okay, yeah. Newbies don't know clippers, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. I mean, clipper-based machines. Interestingly enough, Prusa is not a clipper-based thing. So I thought that was strange. I was like, what? Really? That kind of blew my mind. I was like, what? No clipper? It's Marlin. But for new people and old people, what we look for is, I want to buy it, I want to get it out of the box, and I don't want to take a lot of time, and I want to get to printing cool stuff. So that's where everybody's heading. So the newer companies, the smaller no-name companies and stuff that are coming out, and again, it's a Kickstarter, so it remains to be seen on how brand new companies are going to do. Some of them are flash in the pan, like, what was it, the Airy 1 X400? They came out, remember all the pomp and circuses, whatever it was, with the X400 saying it was going to revolutionize print farms and is prosumer level and the whole 9 yards. They sent a few of those out to reviewers, which gave them glowing reviews. And then as the Kickstarter went off, and then tons of people canceled their order on the Kickstarter, and then they had false advertising or false reviews on advertising on Facebook. Most of the people were from Indonesia, and so they bought Indonesian people that would review the X400 saying, oh, it's great, I can't wait to get my hands on it. But you click on their profile, some people were living in places that had dirt floors, let alone any type of electronic appliances in their home. And they're like, you can't wait to get the X400? You barely have electricity for light. And then, of course, after the Kickstarter was over, you didn't hear jack shit about the X400 from Airy 1. So hype is hype. It has to come to fruition. You have to have proof. You have to have good reviews. And what the other interesting thing, let me just get on a rant here, is that with that X400 and the people that did the reviews that said, oh, this is great, it's large scale, it's for print farms, no one is using them. Not one of those people are using them to this day. Where as opposed to you had influencers or reviewers that looked at Prusa and then they're like, I reviewed this and this looks pretty good, and they're still using the Prusas today, or they're using the bamboos, or they're still using them to this day, or they're using Creality and they're still using. You don't see that with the Airy 1 X400 and other companies. So again, just because there's a review by big influencers and reviewers on YouTube doesn't mean that it's going to be a good printer. And I'm really disappointed in some of those people because they were obviously paid to give good reviews, and those systems have disappeared. So you got to be careful. Getting back, Zero says Infimec is using full fluid and clipper. And the 3D SOS YouTube did a good review of the Infimec EX. I'll take a look at that. Perhaps now I'll have one of the first models and not so much later I sell it. Yeah, could be. I don't know. But yeah, so what we end up with is some more information. Took the live stream and kind of hit all the certain areas that we did. You know, we talked about how it was going to be a next-gen printer, a single tool head unit with 4 individual nozzles. It's going to preheat, have high flow nozzles, unicorn nozzles, which are going to be pretty good. Going to save a lot of time and material. Again, the average color or material change takes about 2 minutes on the Creality K2 Plus versus 15 seconds for material change is going to make it 85.5% faster. The S-Drive system for TPU, the push-pull thing that they got going, that is going to be huge if it works out. But Creality is really stepping up because it has 37 sensors with 12 dedicated to the calibration of the nozzle with a deviation of only 25 microns. Holy crow. Talk about, I'm really, if this is true, I'm really looking forward to seeing how these prints come out. We talked about it's going to be a series of printers, K3, K3 Pro, K3 Plus. We don't know which order. We do know that there's 4 nozzles on the K3, 6 and 8 for the other ones that we see over here. Unconfirmed at this moment. But the K3 will be released on 30 September, by 30 September, third quarter of this year. And yeah, the build size is going to be 260 cube. So we'll see what happens. I wonder if they will supply spare sensors. You know what? Working with industrial machinery, like in big industrial furniture machines and planers and all kinds of stuff, huge machines, it's rare that sensors go out. We would have more of the motors going out. We would have relays go out, things like that. Sensors are pretty resilient. And when it comes to 3D printing, I don't really know, except for maybe a thermistor, but that's usually such a small part and it's included with your nozzle. I don't think that's going to be a huge thing. Like with the K2 Plus, you have the strain gauge, small parts. I'm assuming that they will have parts for that. And the fact that they said that they're not doing pre-orders and they just want to go straight to selling and supplying people with printers and stuff leads me to believe that they're trying to put themselves in a better position than they did with past printers. So we'll see what happens. I'm not too worried about the sensors, personally, regardless of company. 00 says, but still no price or build size. Oh, we do know the build size. The K3 will be 260 cube. They did verify that on the live stream. Price, they didn't say. With that said, I'm thinking because the Snapmaker U1 was around, it was $999. FlashForge Creator was kind of around the same price point, $1,000, 9 something or whatever. So I'm expecting the K3 to be in that same price range. I think it'll either be the same or maybe just a little bit less to try to be, I think they would offer it at a little bit less than the Snapmaker and FlashForge. So that way, if all things being equal, if it's cheaper, even if it's just $10 or $15, $25 cheaper, even a few dollars cheaper, that could be a deciding factor for people and saying, hey, well, I'm just going to go with a K3. And then with all the added things that it can do with TPU, which the other machines don't have any claims of doing TPU 80A, yeah, I think all of those things combined will be the deal. Cockafoo says, my K1C strain gauge was dead on arrival, put 3 holes in my bed plate, waited 3 weeks for the parts, and then the clog of death. Oh no. That is the clog of death. I had clogging errors for like the first 300 or 400 hours on my K2 Plus. Replaced nozzles. It would work for a while, but then I get clogging errors again. And then I replaced it with a micro Swiss hot end, and I haven't had any, knock on wood, haven't had any clogs since. So, yeah. Cockafoo says once he got the parts in, it's been running perfect. That's good. That's good. Now, that's something that I wish a 3D printing company, kind of like Bamboo or even Prusa or something, I think Creality could do this and pull it off, is if they could have advanced options. So if they offered like obsidian nozzles, you could choose that as in a drop-down menu besides the regular hardened steel, which, but you're going to have some geeks out there. You're going to have some hardcore, I don't need to upgrade it, but I'm going to, so I'm going to get the obsidian nozzle. Have that as an offering from well-known third-party companies. Include that in the sale. Or let's say a graphite bed, like ramen beds. The graphite ramen beds that I have on my K2 Plus. You don't need it, but to have that as an option as a pro or advanced version, that is, I think people would go for that. But that would require working with, some different companies and trying to make, play well in the sandbox with each other. But I think that would be a cool thing. And eventually I think we'll see that. It's just going to be a while. Is it clear when it's going to be released? Yes, it is. Like they said, third quarter this year, which the end of the third quarter this year will be the end of September. So by, 31 September, we should have the K3 coming out. So, can't wait. I'm hoping it'll do the same as the K2 series. You have the K2, and then you have the K2 Plus, and then you have the K2 Pro. If it follows that same thing, I would gladly wait for a K3 Pro and have like 8 nozzles. That would be wild. Or 6 or 8 nozzles. That would be cool. Funny how a third-party parts fix a problem. Why don't the companies actually use stuff like that from the start? Probably because they would lose some money. Because third-party parts, you have to pay for those parts, and they have to make some money. So even though they could offer it at wholesale, there still needs to be some built-in profit for that company to sell to the 3D printer company, when the 3D printing company themselves can just go with the Barney Basic nozzle stuff. Why cut your profits unless you can charge more? So that would be very interesting. I think someday somebody will eventually end up doing that. Cockafoo says, I bet the reviewers have it now. I'm pretty sure. There's a few of those out in the wild, but there's non-disclosures that they can't disclose that until a later date, until they actually get. But I'm really looking forward to that. But the fact that we haven't seen anything yet, and we're getting close because it's May, it's June now? It's 1 June. So June, July, August, September. Well, I think in the next couple, 1 to 2.5 months, we'll start seeing, about 2.5 months, we'll start seeing some reviews pop up, or a month out before it gets released. We'll see some of that. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see. And I want to see some good reviews. I don't want to see the reviews of, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Thank you for, just to get clicks and views and make money. I want to see good reviews. So we'll see how that goes. Enzymatic, welcome to the stream, brother. Super excited for this printer and the most likely bigger build releases that will follow. I am right there with you. I want the K3 Plus with like 8 nozzles. I think that would be fantastic. NBR with the 2x4 test. Yeah. I don't know about that test. I think that's a clicks in view thing. But putting the dragging machines down a dirt road and seeing if they'll still print or something like that. I think that's more hype. It's fun to watch, but I don't. I want the printer that works. The average person isn't going to rent it and roll it down the road. They're going to set it up in their desk or in their shop, and they're going to print stuff out. And they want it to print good quality stuff and have fun. That's what it comes down to. Whether it's hobby or whether it's a side gig and it's reliable and gives quality products, that is what everybody wants. So the other stuff is just having fun and having some cool stuff. So, but when I see people taking brand new printers and smashing them or breaking them or doing that stuff, it's just like that hurts me. That seriously hurts me. I don't think I could do that. If the printer was a POS, then I could see doing that. But let's see, smack the K2 and it passed. Hobby Howdy pops in and says, what I'm interested in is the right table to lay my 3D printer on so the least amount of vibration goes to my print. Yeah. I'm using like a kitchen island thing for my K2 Plus, but you see people that do print farms that are using shelving that they get from like Home Depot or Lowe's or things like that, industrial shelving, and they don't have any problems. Plywood, particle board, cross it, and it's good to go. I even had my printer on a folding table, and that thing was rocking, but it did the benchy, and it looked really, really good. So, but yeah, you can always go old school. And when you get your printer, and now I know this from when I worked with in an industrial setting of 3D printers and doing medical casts and stuff way back in the day, they actually use the concrete pavers on a table to minimize the movement, to add some weight. You could always end up doing that. You could always go the IKEA route, do some base cabinets and get the thick top on that, and throw a paver on there, you'd be good to go. Not that you need a paver anymore, because the input shaping and all of that comes into play. It's almost like you don't need to do any of that stuff. You can just have a decent table to set it on, put it on a desk, you're good to go. I was surprised that on the folding table that I had that it worked out. Paymanchekchi, I'm sorry, I butchered the name, says, by the time it releases, Prusa will be outdated with a never delivered index system. I think it'll work because we've seen it. They just need to work out some of the smaller details and the smaller bugs on that. But that's just definitely being pushed back. For the Core 1, index is going to be pushed back for a while. We might see it by the end of the year. There's no indication that I've seen for that. But if that's being pushed back, then that means that the Core 1L is going to be pushed back even further, which is going to cause some problems, because now you have companies like Creality and other ones that are jumping on and saying, hey, they don't have to reinvent the wheel, or with the new technology of the coil induction heating system, they can just go right to this and boom, that will, and bring it to market. And so if you have the choice of an a nozzle heating system like this versus an index which isn't out, which one are you going to get? You're going to get the one that you can get your hands on. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Could be outdated. Enzymatic says, I'm using the concrete paver with closed cell gym mat on my machines. Yeah. Like I said, I'm using like a kitchen island that's got some beefy legs. I mean, they're like 4x4s. And so and the top is actual real wood. It is pretty sturdy. And of course the K2 Plus on there adds some significant weight on that. So, but by the time it runs input shaping, honestly, a regular table should be good to go. As long as it doesn't walk. But I printed cool stuff on a folding table with the K2 Plus. I think if you got into taller items, you start those real tall things, and if they're thin, then you might get some wobble, but you might get that anyway. But yeah, personally, I think I'm going to go with an IKEA cabinet, get a couple of those, and then put that there, and then that way I can have a couple of printers, and it'll be good to go. Good to go. All righty, let's see. Cyril Zild says Index is sold out for 2026 and behind in production. Yes, it's. I've heard that too. It's sold out quick, like that, like hotcakes. It'll probably be a while before that gets fielded, which is Cyril Zilt says Bondtech is here in Sweden is not that big, and they're doing all in the EU. Oh, we got a couple other people, like Swedish Forge. I think he's from your neck of the woods, and some other people that are over in Europe. So, let's see. Enzymatic says, if Creality steps up the QA, quality assurance for those of you who don't know, on the upcoming release, they'll have a hit on their hands. People are looking to switch from Bamboo Labs. I agree. A lot of people are not happy with Bamboo, threatening open source people that are using open source that Bamboo has that is open source, and threatening them with cease and desist and possible lawsuits, and kind of thumbing their nose at open source. The more you dig into this, like the average person that just wants to print cool stuff, they don't care about that stuff. But when you get more into the details, more people are like, yeah, Bamboo, I don't like what you're doing. And the fact that you have to hook up to their network and go over the interwebs to get your printer to work, and then they kind of close it off so you can't use third-party slicers or programs or things like that, or even equipment. A lot of people aren't digging that. Yeah, so yeah, a lot of people you're going to have some disgruntled customers, and if Creality plays their cards right, it could go well with them. Okay, I've just got to look over the comments, because some people post comments and I got to look at them, read them, and approve them, because some people, we only had one person do one stupid thing. Secret, we're going to call you Secret. Studios says, I'm shopping for a printer, but only want the, let it get back up there, open platform with no lockout features. Any recommendations? Sorry I'm late. YouTube recommended this stream because I've been searching. You probably, you can't go bad with Prusa. If you're security minded, Prusa is pretty on point with that. Creality, like with a K2 Plus, of course, you can always put everything on a thumb drive. You don't have to hook up to, you're not tethered to their servers or have to get some type of authentication handshake like you do with Bamboo machines now, or FlashForge. I think they're kind of moving in that direction. So Creality, Prusa, maybe Elegoo, and their Centauri Carbon or things like that. Yeah, just kind of do a Chat GPT or Grok search, AI search, and that'll help you kind of find machines. And then depending on what you're printing and why you want to print will kind of lead you into that direction. Pete Man says that Elegoo is coming out with a new machine this week. Ooh, yeah, could be. Could be. I think a lot of companies are going to be coming out with new machines in time for the late part of the year, towards the holidays, and yeah, I think we'll see more machines coming out. So, but I didn't know that. I'll have to look into that. Cockafoo says, as much as I hate Bamboo, they do make good printers. 3 days from buying the X1C, glad I didn't. C1C came out, bought that instead. Yeah. The Creality I like because you can use the Orca slicer now, but when the K3 series comes out, and because of the changes with the multi-tool head system, with the full color spectrum, the color thing that they got going on and all that, they're going to have to do a lot of changing. Orca's pretty good about that. But eventually, I mean, unless Orca adopts that and Creality allows them to play with each other in Creality Sandbox, hopefully Orca will still be a thing. What I'd like to see is Orca work with all companies, but I don't know. I'm hoping they'll remain a third-party option, Creality with Orca and stuff like that. Pretty much all the companies minus Prusa and Sovol have some sort of violation of open source license, but Bamboo will the example that changes the game for others. No one wants to deal with that. Yeah, they're really, they say they're open source, but they've done the bare minimum to be open source and share, because you're supposed to share technology on the open source and what you do and where you take it. They do the very bare minimum, and the fact that they're trying to, bully people into taking down that version of Orca Slicer, that you don't need to use their little handshake connect up to their servers to use the printer that you bought. Yeah, that just doesn't sit well. Which begs the question, like Louis Rossmann and Grant 3D and other people, that if you buy a piece of equipment and you want it to work, but then the company comes in after you bought it and they make changes to firmware and now require you to hook up to their cloud to print anything or put any type of restriction, say, well, no, now you can't use these third-party slicers or this program or that piece of equipment because we've locked it down after the fact. I think that's wrong. You bought the printer, you should be able to just use it. And unfortunately, it's kind of crazy because Bamboo locked their whole system down under the guise of, we're doing this for your own protection. But tell me, seriously, did any 3D printer were victims of hackers going through and printing benchies at 2 o'clock in the morning? Did you ever wake up in the morning at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning and just find your room littered with benchies because somebody hacked into your Bamboo or any other system and printed benchies unbeknownst to you? No, it's never happened, but that's what Bamboo said. We're doing this for your protection. So many hackers out there. Don't gaslight me there, buddy. Let's see. Cyril Zilch says Creality IPO in Hong Kong went up 80% day one, so they might be the next Bamboo. Yes, indeed. That is a huge, and that'll level out, I think, a little bit. But the huge thing, I might actually have to see if I can buy some of that. They could be big, because IPO is huge. And Creality tried to get an IPO 2 other times before and they didn't. Now with this new system and everything, I think this is where the financial world is like, okay, you need to step up and play with the big boys. And that's what Creality is trying to do here. The fact that they got the IPO, and of course all of these new things that they're doing, is part of the reason why they got the IPO. If Bamboo didn't threaten that guy, I don't think it would have been a problem, but they did so the gloves are off. Yeah, I know. I think Bamboo's just getting too big for their britches. So hopefully other companies won't follow that. Enzymatic says, yes, exactly. Changing the rules after purchasing is no good. Yeah, I mean, you buy something, you want to be able to use it, and then you're using it, and then all of a sudden a company says, well, now you have to be connected up to the internet to use it. It's like, well, that's not why I bought the system. I bought the system so I didn't have to hook up to the internet. What happens if I'm doing a side gig like Grant from 3D Musketeers? He does a lot of stuff that requires NDAs. When I worked in industrial electronics, in working in the Department of Corrections, where we had to have programs and systems that were totally isolated from any type of internet access, because we had security concerns for chain of custody, for evidence, for videos and audios and stuff like that. You could not have access, because if we took video and recorded audio for things inside a prison, and somebody gets put up on charges, an inmate gets put up on charges for some heinous crime that he did in prison, but his lawyer comes up and says, well, no, the chain of custody, somebody was able to, you have a back door that somebody can hook up to the internet, that breaks that chain of custody. Or what happens if you're working in the aerospace engineer system? If you're working with some people that, don't want their things copied by, whoever's out there, they say, hey, you're going to build and print this product for us, but we don't want any internet access, and you have to provide that. And you bought a printer to do that, and then all of a sudden now the printer has to in order for it to work, it has to connect up to the internet. That means you're not going to get that business. So Prusa is really good on that aspect. And even like with Creality or a lot of other 3D printing companies, you can go back to the old school and use your USB and plug it in and print it and you're good to go. You don't have to hook up to the internet. That can be all disabled. So, but some companies don't think that way. So yeah, changing and moving the goalposts after you bought the thing to use it, and if they render it useless because you don't upgrade it, I think I don't like that. Elegoo sold some part of the company to DJI for $70 million US, which is funny because Bamboo Lab creators are defects from DJI. And DJI, matter of fact, I just saw this morning that they're trying to appeal back to the United States for selling some of their newer drones, which they were put on a ban list of, hey, we can't do that. So they're trying to make amends with the U.S. and saying, hey, it's not really it's not a big security concern, and please let us sell our drones, which I've got the DJI drone. They're awesome drones. But I think there's more afoot than just the security stuff, because we've got Roombas, we've got, vacuums, robot vacuums that use LiDAR and have mapped out every inch of my house, my apartment here. Nobody says anything about that. That all come from Chinese companies. Nobody says anything about that. So that makes me wonder if it's like, what's really going on behind the scenes? I don't know. Conspiracy theories just, galore if you start going down that rabbit hole. So I don't know. We'll see how it is. But again, the whole thing with 3D printers or drones or, scanners, laser engravers, the majority of those things come from China because of the inexpensive supply chain that China has, that most other countries don't have. And if other companies do produce good products, those products are going to be higher priced, like Prusa, because it costs more to get the materials. So look at the Chinese cars, the BYD and things like that. Ooh, incredible looking cars. And there's some of those cars here in Korea. And I tell you what, I've seen some, and it's like, they're super impressive. Puts Tesla to shame. Anyway, we're getting off the point. And Cirozil says, well, there's a huge problem that every company in China has by law to disclose everything to their Chinese government. Yes, that's true. That is absolutely true. But it's funny that we get up in arms about certain companies like DJI and stuff like that. Oh, we got to ban. But then like the robot Zumbas that are, how many millions of those are out there in the world, in the United States, and yet it's like, go ahead, map my entire house, hook up to the internet. We don't care about that. We just care, seriously. I mean, the stuff that you can get on Google Maps with the resolution that they have is absolutely incredible. So, I don't know. Some companies, I just want to print cool stuff. I don't want to think about all the details. Kakafu says, yeah, they found no spy stuff on the DJI drones. Yeah, I think it's they still didn't find that spy chip, says Kakafu. The infamous spy chip. I don't know. We're getting down the rabbit hole. Let's get back to the 3D printing thing. I am looking forward to K3 that is coming out by the end of this September, keeping fingers crossed. I think it will come out this year. I'm pretty sure it will. It won't be pushed back like the index system in Prusa. So I think this is going to be a huge feather in the cap for Creality. That's going to bring a lot of customers that were waiting on the index system. Instead of, I got to buy a Prusa, and then I have to buy the upgrade kit, but I can't put it together because now everything's pushed back. And then they're going to look over here and they're going to, look, the K3. Or look, other companies already have that stuff built into the printer. I'm just going to buy the printer that already has it. I'm sure there's people out there. I mean, I wouldn't mind buying a printer and then getting the upgrade kit and putting it in there. But honestly, I've done that before in, past work experiences and stuff, but I don't want to now. I just want to buy the machine that already has the stuff in it and it works. And unfortunately, it seems like Prusa is kind of like a step behind on that. Prusa for the longest time had problems with just having a camera in their printers that was like pulling teeth to try to get it to work or even get one. And even then, the quality wasn't even video. It was still pictures. And it's like, seriously, you have companies that are bringing out and have 3D printers that are $500 that have live video feeds, and Prusa can't even get that right. So while Prusa is great on a lot of stuff, their upgrade kits and so on and so forth, they really are great printers, and I appreciate their attention to detail when it comes to security and all that stuff and being able to unplug from the net. There are still some things that they're lacking in. So, 6 of one, half dozen of the other, I guess. I don't know. But now I think most people that are new coming into 3D printing, I want to buy the box, I want to open the box, I want to put the thing on my desk on a table and have it print and make cool stuff. I don't want to have to go through the rigmarole of upgrading and buying this and adding it to this to finally to get it to work to get the cool stuff that I want print. So yeah, I think this will be in favor of Creality. This could be a huge thing. The K3 is, however, turns out a new milestone with TPU system and the dual S drive. Yeah, they call it the S drive, direct drive feeding. So I'm assuming with that, that is huge for a lot of, I am not into TPU printing, but you have to admit that's going to be a huge thing to go from 95A to 80A, 80 alpha TPU. And I think they're also continuing on with the RFID system for filament identification and profiles. So you put it in, boom, it reads the RFID tag and says, yeah, this is PLA, this is PETG, this is TPU, this or that or whatever. And that will dictate whether both of those, because I think with regular filaments, you're just going to use the one extruder system that's in the tool head. But if it identifies and boom, you're able to, it picks up that, hey, this is a roll of TPU, whatever it is, then it'll use that dual S drive feed system to feed that TPU. That's going to be awesome. Which begs the question, will it be third party or open source friendly to making your own RFID tags for third party filaments? Inquiring minds want to know. The Prusa cameras are famous because Joseph Prusa refused to buy them from China. Yeah, I get it, but but the thing isn't that the cameras come from China. It's the fact that the camera doesn't provide a video feed, a good video feed. It's just what it is. And yeah, you would have to buy a different camera that would probably cost a lot more, but even then, the video feed is for crap. I mean, if people can put out a Centauri Carbon or a $400 or $500 printer that has better video streaming quality to see your prints, and Creality, and not Creality, but Prusa is still struggling with that. Yeah, kind of shooting yourself in the foot. You need to make some compromises, but in the end, do you really need a camera? I don't know. Honestly, I use the camera more than I thought. So with the Creality, it's on my phone. I have the app and everything. So I'll start a print. I'll make sure that the first few layers are good to go. And then as I'm going through the day and we go somewhere, I can check my phone and boom, yep, still printing, good to go, notifications. Matter of fact, I just did the firmware upgrade on the K2 Plus, and I got my very first spaghetti thing that popped up. It says, hey, boom. And sure enough, when I looked at it, it was like, yeah, my little Benchy had some I was fingering my plate and I didn't clean it enough, and the little Benchy kind of came off the plate, and then it, printed in the air, had some spaghetti, but eventually it stopped, and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. That's the first time I saw that. So that was neat. Let's see, let's get to some more comments. Cockafoo says they need to open source their RFID. Only works for their filaments, and they don't have much. Polymaker released filament profiles for Snapmaker and Elegoo. Yeah. But with that being said, my K2 Plus that I just did the firmware upgrade, I had the Polymaker Panachrome matte PLA calibrated and good to go. And when I did the firmware upgrade, I went back and printed a Benchy to make sure that it worked. The Benchies didn't turn out nice, so I had to go back. So the profiles that I did for calibrating the Polymaker PLA are worthless now. So I had to go back and use the generic PLA Polymaker profile in Creality Slicer, and it comes out pretty good. Is it good enough to where I don't need to run calibration on the filament? Probably. Because filament profiles are getting better and better over time. So, but it just, I don't understand why. But apparently, within that firmware upgrade, the profile, the calibrated profile that I had for Polymaker PLA didn't work anymore, and there were some ugly Benchies. So, I guess I just got to recalibrate. Not that it's a big deal, but. What I do like is with the 37 sensors that are on the K3 series that they're talking about, I'm imagining there's going to be something that deals with flow calibration, automatic flow calibration, kind of like what we've seen with Bamboo and some other companies. I think that is going to be part of it as well. I still haven't confirmed it, but I'm thinking that's going to be part of the draw for the K3 series. Is that will include that type of sensors and calibration and hands-off. It'll automatically adjust the flow. How much flow? I don't know. You can push your machine a little bit more by doing your own filament calibration, as I was, because I have the Micro Swiss hot end, and you can make it go a little bit faster. They're a little conservative, so everything prints, and I get that. But if you're looking to tweak it out a little bit more, yeah, look into calibrating your filament. It's an interesting process. But, will it have LiDAR? Will it have sensors that will get us better results? It seems as it should, because 12 of those sensors are going to calibrate the nozzle, and so the deviation is only going to be 25 microns. That's some big boy talk there. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Alrighty, I think we're going to end up, since we're. Why is all the rum gone? I don't know. I think we need to continue and move on. Cockafoo says that's the fun part. Tweak it to make it better, and that's what I like about having competition within the industry. Is we can make things better, faster, quicker, stronger. When everybody competes to make a more competitive product at a cheaper price to try to grab more of the market share, that drives innovation. So that's the thing that I like about this, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. Some of the other things are going to be happening on this channel. Obviously, we'll be doing something like that, but yeah, always the little upgrades are always fun. Tweak it, make it better. Enzymatic says, I use the same FlowTech nozzles on all my machines. I run all calibrations myself. Micro Swiss is such a good brand. Oh yeah, like I said, I've noticed it heats up. For those that are wondering, Micro Swiss is a third-party company that makes hot ends for like the K2 Plus and other machines. I found that it heats up filament faster, it cools down faster, and I get better flow. And when I do my own calibration, just like Enzymatic says, it's really good. So with that being said, I'm really looking forward to see what the K3 brings. And then if third-party companies like Micro Swiss, are they going to offer some nozzle units for the K3 series, like they did with the K2 Plus and others? Ooh, yeah, ooh, tweak it, let's make it better. My beer starts in 50 minutes. My breakfast is going to be starting pretty soon. I don't think it'll include beer because it's like 8:10 in the morning here. But if you're somewhere else in the USA and it's beer 30, knock yourself out. You enjoy to have a good one every now and then. Alrighty, I think we're going to end up finishing up this stream. We went over a lot of information. We had a lot of fun. Looking forward to the K3 series from Creality. Keeping fingers crossed with that. IPO was on the 29th. Again, looking forward to some good stuff. If you all could do me a favor right now, could you like my video? Could you subscribe to my channel? I would appreciate that if you could do that. It would mean a lot to me if you could do that. That's part of my hobby of being retired here in Korea and doing this 3D printing stuff and trying to have some fun. So we're going to go ahead and sign out with the obligatory outro. And Venom says goodbye all. Have a good night or good morning. Good talk. We enjoyed it. There's my email address if you want to contact me. Creality or any other company, if you want me to do some reviews, contact me. I send stuff out, so I'm hoping, praying, be able to get some companies and do some reviews. I think I would enjoy that. A bunch of cool people that have supported the channel by buying me coffee. You can do that. That's in the box down below. I don't so much answer individual comments on videos because I've got over 800 videos now. So if you want to get in touch with me, officialtheverylife@gmail.com is the way to get in touch, and I always answer my emails. So show me what you're printing, what you're doing, new information to make me a better person, painter, printer. Send it to my email, and I'll take a look at it. With that said, thank you for being so cool, and we will see you on the next video. Peace. We're out of here.